Patrick Braden, and my daughter's name is Melissa Braden. And Melissa was abducted by her mother, Ryoko Uchiyama, to Japan on March 16, 2006. And Ryoko is now on FBI's Most Wanted. She violated several court orders. She promised to abide by whatever the court's rulings were in terms of custody. And the government of Japan basically allows Japanese citizens to completely ignore not just U.S. laws, but all foreign laws and jurisdictions and court rulings. And it's hard to say what Japan would extradite a criminal to the United States for. But right now they're trying to interfere with a guy who murdered his wife. And the Miura case. But that's a whole different story. I'm here today on Father's Day weekend at the Capitol to, I'm actually here for 8 days. I spent 100 days here last year in 2007, and I met Mark here last August at the rally on the mall down at the Lincoln Memorial. And,
family preservation.
Yeah, the family preservation rally, August 18th, I think it was. And but you know, I believe that the way to resolve this stuff is by just continually educating the politicians. These are our legislators. They are obligated to act on our behalf, and somebody has to go up there and walk those halls and walk in and talk to those staffers and keep calling them back, even though they don't return your calls, even though you don't have any money to give them, even though it may be a difficult subject for them. The beauty of it is it's a nonpartisan subject. Every one of these politicians here is a parent, or a child at least, and has two parents. And they understand the relationship between a parent and a child. And it's interesting how in the international world, at least, and I have to look at the whole world because my case is an international case. It involves Japan and the United States. But it's interesting to watch how, coming through this whole thing, how I've learned how our government treats fathers as an afterthought, and how other governments can just ignore our government or our laws or our courts' rulings and custody and jurisdictions. And but like I said, I'm here to educate the politicians and try and lobby them towards reform and a better way of life for our children, and maybe for me if I'm lucky. I don't know if it's going to happen in my lifetime, but because the pace of everything here, the pace of change here is glacial. And like I said, I spent 100 days here last year, and today I guess I went through about 20 offices and talked to a number of people. I had a couple of good meetings with a couple of staffers.
Is this all in the Senate?
Yeah, this was all in the Senate today. Yesterday there was a hearing in the House Foreign Affairs Subcommittee on Asia and the Pacific, and the subcommittee subject, the meeting of the hearing was about an overview of the U.S. and Japan relationship, and they called in a State Department guy, Alexander Arvizu, to testify because he had just been to Japan meeting with a guy by the name of his counterpart, John Negroponte's counterpart, Yamanaka, and it appears that, not just from the State Department's view, but from many of the politicians and many of the people in think tanks and politically people who have careers in politics around here in various angles and agendas. Japan has not cooperated with the United States on anything lately. They're holding up the six-party talks. They're refusing to refuel us in the Indian Ocean. They're cut off the beef issue. They've put the beef blockades, cost the American beef growers $5 billion. And there's the rice issue, apples, trade. It goes on and on and on. And
what about family stuff?
Well, in family stuff, Japan, according to the State Department, is the worst country in the world. It's the only country in the world the State Department has not been able to get any cooperation from. 100% of all American children who've been illegally abducted to Japan are still in Japan. The State Department has never gotten one child back. The State Department has returned children from Libya, Syria, Cameroon, Iran. They got 14 children back in a 2-year period of time from Saudi Arabia. You know, when I mention that to people, they say, oh yeah, a child abducted overseas, boy, that's really bad in the Middle East. Well, the truth is, it's much worse in Japan than any country on our planet. And you know, we've resolved lots of cases in the Middle East and other countries all over the world, but we've never resolved one case with Japan. And the Japanese legal system, family law system, is really based on like a 600-year-old law system, and it's completely vague and ambiguous. It gets interpreted, you know, opposite ways depending on the case, depending on how the judge wants to rule. Really, it depends on which party is Japanese and which is not. You know, if there are two people, one who's Japanese and one who's not, what ends up happening is the case strictly goes for the Japanese citizen and against the foreigner, and it's been like that forever, and it's never changed. No case has ever gone against that. And aside from that, there are no enforceable rulings from the family law courts.